It is the Death Chicks. How are you? I'm Patty Burgess with Doing Death Differently, and we've got Misty with bittersweetblessing.com. We're thrilled to be here. We've had hardly any technical glitches except for like about 30 seconds beforehand, a little panic, but it's all over with. We're here. We're glad to be with you. As you know, this is Death Chicks, and every Thursday at 3 o'clock, what we're doing is talking about all things death, dying, grief, and loss, all of the kind of traditionally tabooed topics. We want to be a place, a forum where people can come and talk about those things, anything and everything around those topics. So we're glad that you're with us. And I am going to turn it over to Misty Lynn right now of bittersweetblessing.com, who's going to introduce our wonderful guest today. We're very, very excited. You're going to be thrilled.
Hello, everyone. Our guest today is Rachel Archelaus, and I'm very happy and excited to have Rachel here. Rachel's an internationally known spiritual teacher, artist, and creator of the Inuit Art Academy. She teaches people how to connect with their highest wisdom through psychic development classes and intuitive art training. Rachel also is currently having a discussion online about how to have a fulfilling career and how to integrate all the things that you love, serving people, doing what you love, making money, and the whole gamut that creates a wonderful life. And she's having a conversation about how we can do this and how it's actually achievable. And she can share more with you about that at the end of the show, and I'm very much looking forward to that. As an independent mother and a business owner, the juggling is challenging, but I love it. I'm a good juggler too.
You are.
All right. I almost launched into a story there about hitchhiking in Newfoundland, and I was the rock juggler, but we'll save that for another day.
Ooh, that's a good story. Inquiring minds want to know. You don't
back into. Back into Rachel. Okay, so Rachel shares that she grew up psychically open, and I'm not really sure what this means, but I'm hoping we'll learn a bit more as we go into the show. And she's connected to the other realm. She connects to the other realm often. And this is what we're also going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to talk briefly about our book, which is The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. And there's an excerpt here that I'd like to read briefly. And when I asked Rachel about soul tribes, which is what the excerpt is about, she said she knows about them. So I'll read this, and then we'll be right over to Rachel, and she will tell us what soul tribes are. Okay, so this is on page 121 of The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. And this is Billy talking to his sister, dead Billy, talking to his live sister. Although all beings come from the same source, within each individual blossom, within our differences lies the pleasure of creation. In its multitudinous, glorious playfulness, the infinite creates diversity, so there are many soul tribes. Each tribe has its special explorations to undertake on Earth. Your soul tribe isn't about your country or race, religion or family. When you meet someone from your soul tribe, you feel you somehow already know that person. Other tribes are unfamiliar, but they bring gifts of new knowledge and wisdom. The different tribes provide all the characters needed for the great cosmic drama. So I love that excerpt, and I love it at the end because it talks about the cosmic drama. And sometimes I feel that I'm more connected to the other realms, or I look around at the craziness, the drama that's going on Earth, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And occasionally I get caught up in the drama as much as possible. I try to have some nice distance and just watch it from afar and sit like Buddha and smile and know that all that needs to be will come to pass. So that's our introduction to soul tribes, and I'm going to hand it over to Rachel to share more.
Yes,
Thank you.
expand on that. Thanks, Rachel, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a really great honor. I love what you guys talk about. So, soul tribes, in the way that he's describing it, you can kind of picture it like, okay, so there's one central place for all the souls. Some people think of it as heaven. And then you can kind of think of it as, you know, different souls going off to different colleges. Some people believe that we all, you know, we'll go to different planets to do this. We'll go to, you know, different kind of jobs in the afterlife. But it's people getting together in the same place and learning the same language and the culture, and they have their own kind of, you know, think about how different we are as a culture from Chinese society. Like, they value different things. It's the same thing when you're not alive. You go and you specialize in certain things. You develop your own language with everybody. And then when you're kind of deployed to Earth to fulfill your mission, you're going to have that natural rapport with some people. And that's how you can recognize your soul tribe on Earth. It's like, you know, people who went to the same college will root for the same baseball team. Even though they don't know each other, they still feel that camaraderie. So it's the same thing here. You might meet people that just use the same language that you would use, or, you know, appreciate the same things that you appreciate. And so that's kind of how you can tell on Earth. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does make sense. And it kind of describes what sort of organically happens when people come together, they find each other, and they have some sort of fit that is kind of unexplainable. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard it called, I guess you mentioned soul tribes, soul communities, or soul connections. I'm trying to think. I've heard it in a couple of different terminology. But you know, it's just amazing because I think everybody gets that feeling of that connection. Everybody has it somewhere along the way, and maybe there's a lot more than what we can see going on.
Yeah. Well, there's also something called soul groups that I think you hear more often.
That's it.
And that is a different thing. That's like, you can still train with those people, but your soul group is really who you incarnate with most often. So you'll often have lives with the same people over and over again, and you help each other by playing different roles. And in that case, those people may be the most abrasive to you, or the most harmful, or like that love-hate relationship, or just a sibling where you have a really tumultuous time. You know, those relationships are often a lot harder to deal with, and they're done like that on purpose, so we grow from them. So that's a little different from a soul tribe.
Can you get out of soul groups? I mean, like, can you pop over to another one maybe just to visit? I'm not even talking about second round. Just every.
There are no rules, really. There's no rules.
Okay. So I guess and that does answer a lot of questions in my world. But after a while, once these lessons or these different karmic experiences are worked out, do you end up with other groups for more lessons, or might it be non-physical in nature, or?
I mean, the possibilities are totally endless. Yeah, you can go be with different groups. You can have non-physical lives. That's often where I'm most comfortable. So people who are able to really like have psychic experiences easily and kind of live in this realm, like Misty, you were saying that you feel really connected to the other side. We tend to be able to have both kind of lives interchangeably. There's nothing good or bad about that. It's just there's so many places we can go and experience ourselves as souls, and so some of them have bodies and some don't. But yeah, you can. Yeah. There's no limit to like what you can do when you're not in this physical body.
You know, it's so interesting.
Rachel,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you said, you know, when you have a psychic experience, and this is one of those words that I'm not really sure what it is. I think I probably had them, but yeah, having never, I don't think I've ever talked to a psychic before. I probably have. There's some people we've interviewed, but it's kind of a new, it's a word that's becoming more mainstream. It's something I've said often, the veils are thinning between this world and the other world, the seen world and the unseen world, and I was hoping you could just expand on that a little bit, and then maybe touch on how your abilities, your psychic abilities, weaves into your experiences with death, and how that experience with death might be different from most people or people who don't have psychic abilities.
Sure. So I use the word psychic to explain anything that's beyond the regular five senses. So there's nothing really weird about it. You know, even intuition is a psychic sense. So we're all really familiar with intuition. Everybody has it, men, children, women, and that's pretty normal. But you can also extend that out to like people who see energy and auras, and people who can talk to people who've passed on, and you know, basically everything extrasensory.
Mm-hmm.
So that does include, you know, accessing the future and accessing the past, like in a reading with a typical, you know, psychic, what you'd think of. But it's also just about knowing your inner truth and feeling connected to your higher self, and more like down to earth spiritual stuff. So
Would that be angels too?
absolutely, yes. My life would not be complete without my angels.
And I don't think that there's a disease down there. I promise you. I think this is, anytime you see anything that's demon-like, it's a product of your own imagination, my own personal belief. But then again, there may be different personal beliefs out there. So we're going to stick with this for now. I think that's more fitting. Goes with my color palette.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, and that's true. You talk about psychic. It seems like that's one of those words that people can figure as kind of woo-woo or new age, but truly what I sense is that we've got this kind of mass consciousness that is catching up with the kind of innate abilities that many of us may have sort of closed down or shut down because it was scary or not acceptable. So, you know, for example, the time of the Salem witch trials, these may be just women who were using their intuition wisely, and it was very scary for people of the time. So, yeah, I love that this is coming to a place where we can talk about it and share it and be it without, you know, fear of too much retribution. But I guess the best way to experience that without fear is to hang in your own soul group, and or not soul group, soul. What did we say?
Tribe.
That's right. Soul tribe. Very, very good. Wonderful.
Yeah. So it's, being psychic is something we're all born with. It's just part of being a human. And children will often give that away. Like a lot of kids will talk about their past lives, or they'll recognize a photo of a relative before they've even met them, or even if that relative is deceased, like they'll know things about them. They'll talk about, you know, seeing colors around people. Like children have the sense open. It's only the fact that it's not encouraged, it's not acknowledged, and that's really when, like you said, it gets shut down. So yeah, everybody's got this. Everybody can learn to reopen it too. It's not even hard.
It makes me think of
I guess we're both, you know,
Yeah.
we're both trying to jump on Rachel.
yeah. Yeah, and we have this time lag thing here in the Arctic, so it's we're always jumping on each other. But anyhow, I was just thinking of my daughter and the other kids she's around, and it's interesting when they see photos, or even any age really. Sometimes you'll see a photo or a person, and you'll just be like, I've seen them before, or that's this person. And I'm not quite sure how one person could be another person, but maybe it's because those people are in the same soul tribe. Could throw that out there.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's also the same sort of time-space continuum that we operate under. It's sort of none of that here. So I think that, you know, trying to figure out past lives or when somebody died and when they came in, if we're looking at that on a linear time scenario, it's not going to make any sense. But Rachel, just to back up a little bit, tell us a little bit more about how it occurred for you and in your world, and this all seems somewhat natural to you and in your family. How did you even know that all this stuff was going on for you?
Yeah, so that's quite a story. So when Misty said I grew up psychically open, that just means that from the time I was really little, I've always seen things and heard things and kind of lived in that world where I didn't have a boundary between my five senses and my sixth. It was always just open to me. So one of my earliest memories of seeing things is when I was sleeping over my friend's house when I was little. I was like 7, and then we'd all sleep on the floor, and angels would come down from the corners of the room and kiss us all on the forehead before we fell asleep.
Oh my God,
It was terrifying. Like,
no,
I used to like pull up the covers and pretend to sleep because they would literally come down and kiss me, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't think they would do anything to me that was bad, but it was just, imagine being a little kid, your parents tell you to be afraid of strangers, and then there's like somebody coming and kissing you. So it was always very interesting as a kid, and I had a invisible brother Matt who was my visible friend, and he came with me everywhere, and we would talk, and so I just had those experiences that could seem normal, but had a little layer of truth to them. And it wasn't really until my grandfather died when I was like 11 that I understood that I was seeing real people. Like, it was a real thing. Like, my grandpa was a real guy, and then he died, and then he was a spirit guy. But he used to come to me every single day, and we would talk. And he really explained a lot to me, like, about what happens after you die and how you do have jobs and how reincarnation works and just so much stuff. And
wow.
I learned that you don't have to really say goodbye. And I was actually more sad when he didn't come back anymore, from when he was visiting me in spirit, than when he had physically died. So
wow.
I have a really interesting experience with death where it's more fluid for me, even though I do still have the human emotions of like missing physical people.
Sure.
So,
were your parents supportive of these experiences where you were having, or did they tend to minimize them?
they really minimized it a lot, but so did I. I would tell them that I would talk to my grandpa, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's great," and not too much else. Same thing with the angels. They'd be like, "Oh, that's great, honey," But when I was a teenager and we moved into a really active house in a new town, things got really dark for a little while, and that's when my parents really had to step up and help me figure out what was going on, because it went from like everyday normal happy occurrences to like, I don't know what's going on, this is really dangerous for me, stuff. So
how do you think you would explain that? How would you explain it to someone when you use the term dark? What does that mean?
Well, I wouldn't want to scare anybody, because I believe that we all create our own lives, and so I created this for myself to deal with. But in that respect, I would wake up in the morning with bruises. I would be followed by spirits even when I left my house, and like they'd be looking in my windows. I would have physical pains if I would walk in certain places in my house. Like, it just felt like a really big dose of negative energy. And we've all felt that. Like, you've ever stood next to someone and really just felt kind of sick to your stomach?
Mm-hmm.
It was like that,
That's
but
interesting.
on steroids.
Do you think this came on?
I'm wondering.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just wondering how you overcame that, because it seems like quite a big, heavy cloud, often the one that surrounds death and dying, which is why people don't want to talk about it, which is why we're doing this show. So how did you overcome that?
So what I really had to do was learn to regulate my own energy. Like there are a lot of people who feel empathy, who when they go to a crowded mall or a restaurant, they'll feel overwhelmed and they'll have to leave. That was basically what I was dealing with. So I needed to be able to be in myself and not have to deal with the outside energy. And it took a while, it took a few years for me to figure out how to ground myself, how to rely on my own intuition again, how to add things into my life that made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
So like sitting and wallowing in that wouldn't change me, and so I had to figure out what would make me feel better. So I started going to poetry nights and writing more. I started doing more art, and I really developed myself as a way to build up my energy and my, structure, really, so that nothing could come in that I didn't want. And that really worked.
That's wonderful.
Lots of intuitive art, too.
Yeah, and we definitely want to talk about that because I find that so fascinating and lots of different ways that people connect with the afterlife or the other side, as we call it, or Misty, as you say, that veil between two worlds. But would you say also that during this time that you were experiencing that and learning how to kind of restructure and manage those energies, were you also a teenager at the time?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder that because I wonder, teenage years it's full of a lot of angst and changes and hormonal changes, and I wonder if for many whether there's some kind of advantage to really learning how to manage that as you did, and hopefully you had support during that time too.
I did, yeah. I mean, as much as you could have, really. My parents were great, and I had friends that were really okay with who I was and what I was going through. And I agree, going through something like that early on really prepared me, I think, for the career that I have now, and being able to teach people how to build up themselves, for practical reasons like having a great life, but also for those energetic reasons of not letting in energies that can throw you off your game. So yeah, I feel like I went through a lot of things early so I could like get them out of the way. It
Yeah,
worked.
that's great. And
Mhm.
one last thing on that I'll mention in some of the reading I'm doing, with we've talked to some people that have had near-death experiences. I've been doing a lot of reading about that, and also out-of-body experiences. And so when people are in these different realms or states of consciousness, and it really is consciousness. Um, from all that I'm reading is that all of what we see as seemingly negative is really from us or fears or those kinds of things in there to help us create to overcome, create that structure that you talk about, and to overcome. And I think when people understand that that's self-generated, not as not to blame oneself, but that it's nothing outside of oneself that can hurt us, it can really ease a lot of anxiety if people are going through some of these things. So, we're powerful creators on many different spectrums and levels, and so, I find that fascinating and really thrilled that you were able to find your way through.
Thanks. Yeah, I totally agree. If you think about it from the perspective of before you're born, you're planning out your life.
Yes.
If it was just all candy and roses, we would be so bored. If you look at people who have trust funds, right, like they inherit millions of dollars when they're 18 or 21, a lot of times those are the most troubled people because they have way too much money and time on their hands. We always think it would be different for us, but I don't think so. I think we plan in these obstacles so that we can overcome them, we can grow, we can build our character, and then we have something to teach, right? Like, a lot of our biggest hardships are going to be what we help other people overcome. So I'm grateful for what happened to me. I'm definitely not a victim of anything. So, yeah.
Really well
Nice.
well put.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us how, one of the things I was fascinated with when I first went to your website and saw the different things that you're doing was what I suppose you call intuitive art, and the beauty of connecting with the other side and being able to bring forth these pieces of artwork from spirit are it's just lovely to think about, and again, the creativity. Can you tell us a little bit about how it got started, how this works, what the process is, and I'm sure more than that even.
Yeah, I'd love to. So intuitive art, the way that I teach it at least, is really based on the fact that we can connect with our greater wisdom. Some people call it your higher self, or to God, or to your angels. We can connect with that part of us and bring through their energy as an answer to something, or just as like a message. And I teach people how to read that message through doing this artwork. So it's not artwork in the sense like you're creating a picture that's fun to look at. It's more like scribbled on a piece of paper that I can teach you how to read, because I show you what your unique color meanings are. And so then when you have your picture, like I have one right here.
Okay.
Can you show us one? Yes, that would be great.
So
Live demos.
this is what it could possibly look like, just scribbles. You do it with your eyes closed. And then during your color meditation, which I take you through in the class, you'll know what your blue means, what your red means, and what your yellow means, so you can know what this says. Like for me, this color blue is like a light healing color. It's telling me to like lighten up, like smile more. And then the yellow, my yellow is joy, so that's telling me something too. So when you're connecting like this, you do it really for two reasons. Either to solve a problem outside of your head, because like on a day-to-day level, if we're like bombarded with thoughts in our head, or we're trying to solve something up there, it's not going to really work. You're trying to solve your problem in the same place that it was created. And Einstein says, well, you can't do that. It doesn't work. You have to solve it from a different level of consciousness. So that's why we go to the higher consciousness, bring it through in a drawing, and then just put it on paper where it's outside of you. But secondly, it also connects you with the entire realm of being in that higher consciousness. So past, present, future, your soul, like what you truly deeply know about yourself, how to heal yourself. All these things are accessible to you when you go to your higher self. And you can also connect with your loved one or spirit and bring a message through from them, and of course read it with your colors. So it's really kind of limitless what you can use it with, which is awesome, but it can also be super practical and just help you solve everyday problems in a new way. And it's easy to learn too.
Very cool. You said that you can connect with your loved ones and maybe get messages from them. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that in case our viewers would like to explore that or learn a bit more, and then maybe jump on over and see you for more direction. But if you could explore that more fully. And then I'm also wondering how this process may help some people through the grieving, through their grief, if that's possible.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I'll start with how to get messages from your loved ones first. It would be the same process of doing any intuitive drawing, which is just 3 steps. One is having that intention. So to connect with your loved one, you would just take a moment, kind of get centered, and think of who you want to talk to. So I just recently found out that a friend of mine passed away a few years ago, and I never found out. And I was really upset about it. So if I think of him and I just ask myself, okay, I'm going to connect with him, and I'm going to allow a message to come through from him. Simple as that. You don't have to feel anything. It doesn't have to seem real. It's just that intention. And then you would do the drawing process, which is quick. Normally it's like 60 seconds to 2 minutes. And then you would read your drawing. So that process is the same for everything. It's just the intention that changes. And if you want to learn how to do this, I have a free class that you can go to intuitiveartacademy.com, or even the link underneath my name, intuitiveartacademy.com/career. There's also a class right behind that page. So feel free to go and check it out and just use that intention of connecting with your loved one and getting a message. But also, here's the second question. Oh, using it for grieving. So you can also use it to heal yourself. I often ask as an intention, like higher self, how can I heal myself from this pain right now? And it'll show you. So the colors that show up for that drawing will be the ones you need to know about to go about healing. Like maybe you need to release some anger. Maybe you need to allow yourself to be supported. Like maybe you're actually pushing people away. Or maybe you need to, go away and, do some meditating or get a massage. Like whatever you specifically need will show up in that drawing, and your own color meanings will tell you what to do. So.
You mentioned color meaning. Is that something that you have kind of a key for, or is that something that we kind of figure out somehow on our own intuitively as well?
Well, everybody's color meanings are individual, and in the free class, I guide you through a meditation so that you can fill out your own color sheet. So it's really easy. You just have to listen along and then write down the answers that come to you during the meditation. So everybody's will be different, but it's easy to figure out because I'll guide you through it.
Wonderful. It's interesting to me how meditation is really the doorway to so much. People who kind of poo-poo meditation as an opportunity to connect or feel like they might be making up something. In fact, you just mentioned that. A lot of times when we feel like we're making up something, if we can shift that to, wow, what does that message mean, even if I feel like I'm making it up, because it came from somewhere. It came from some source. And so, therefore, one can believe that I'm making it up and it's not real, or the just as likely choice is that there is this feeling, this message, this thought that has been brought to you from on high, let's say. And I think in some ways it's a choice. Do we believe this, or do we choose to poo-poo it? And to me, if there's only two choices, why not believe? It's so much more interesting. It's so much more enriching, I suppose. How do you speak to someone who is sort of really guarded about that concept?
Well, that's something that I deal with a lot when teaching beginners, how to start receiving psychic messages and, talk to their spirit guides and stuff. They're always wondering if it's really true or if it's just them. And I try to elevate them to the perspective that all of this is really an illusion anyway. Like, we're not really separate people. Spirits are not really different from us. We're all the same thing, and we're all telepathic. We're all linked. We're all the same energy. So it is you, in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but on like a lower level, like something that would actually help. I call your intuition your first voice, and that would go for receiving any kind of psychic message as well. So the first thing that you hear is real. The second thing that you hear is probably your ego. So you'll ask for a message, you'll get one, and then you'll judge it. The first thing is the real thing. The second thing is the fake thing. So you can think about it like that as well, and that tends to really help.
That's why your first question on the test, if you're picking multiple choice, is usually right.
Correct?
Yeah. Totally it. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There was something you said. Oh, sorry, Patty.
No, no, good.
There's something you said earlier, Rachel, and it got to something that I've done throughout my life without really noticing it. And you said the first step of the intuitive art process, or I think it's that, or of connecting with someone on the other side. But the first step was just to have the intention. So this is what I want to do. And, you know, just really simply stating it or just having that intention. And personally, when I found myself in a bind or in a hard spot, and it's funny, I think Patty and I, or was it our previous guest, but there's a recent conversation anyhow that said, it doesn't matter what you believe, when you're in a pinch, you turn to prayer. God help me, or whatever it is. Even if you're an atheist, sometimes this will happen if, you know, the skyscraper is falling on you. But anyhow, when I find myself in a pinch, and not in an emergency pinch, but just in a tight spot in life, I'm feeling stuck, I'm feeling like I'm spinning my wheels, and there comes a point where it'll just stop. It'll come to a head, and I'll say, oh, I almost pulled up my earbuds. And at this point, I'll just ask the question, or I'll just set the intention. I want to do this, and I'll often sit down with pen and paper, and the answer, it's amazing. It comes out so quickly and so succinctly, and never once have I been like, no way, you're kidding. You know, like, I think my ego mind might jump in and say that, but when I first see it, it's always like, yeah, of course. Of course, that's exactly what I need to do, or that's exactly why I'm stuck, or that's exactly what the problem is. And for me, it's, well, you explained it very well. All that we need to know is within us. All that we create is within us, good or bad. All that we create is for a reason. It's for higher learning. So when we sit down and just say, okay, I'm going to look at this, and this is my intention to overcome this, all the answers will be there if we can quiet our ego minds enough and allow our intuitive mind to have the forefront, or to notice that first reaction, and then and go with it without letting the monkey mind jump in there and distract us. So well said. Thank you.
Monkey mind. That's good. I live with monkey mind. I really do. Getting very friendly with monkey mind. But I can tell you, to add to your point, Misty, you know, it's when I was doing meditation sporadically, the intuitions and the messages came sporadically. When I began to practice it on a regular basis every morning, that channel opened up, and maybe that's what you're talking about, Rachel, is this psychically open when you put yourself specifically and deliberately in a place where you're able to receive, whether you believe or don't believe. What do you think of that as a practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be a practice. If you want to really live in that expanded state of your higher self and of really navigating life easily, you know, getting into really living your potential, I think making it a practice is important. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily have to be through meditation, though I love it, and I think it's a really great tool. But it could even be like just following through with what intuitive hits you get, because that's how you build trust. And so you get an intuitive hit, follow through, and then you'll see that it works out. And so then you just keep, you know, using that as momentum, and pretty soon you'll have your life practice, and it won't seem separate. So your intuition won't seem separate from you. It'll just be a part of how you act daily.
Yeah, it's kind of like it melds a little bit more to become you and to become a part of you, and it doesn't seem so separate anymore. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so you're really integrating all of you. So instead of making your higher aspects, your multidimensional aspects separate from you, you're actually embodying that, you're integrating it, and so now you're this, like, I was going to say almost like a superhero, but in essence you are, because you have more information coming through you at all times. It's like living in meditation almost.
Mm-hmm. That makes total sense. And also self-trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. What what comes through for me right now is I'll often do that and say, okay, I'm open to receiving whatever it is I need to receive, because my mind, which is getting, messages to do this and this and that from different directions, but not from the intuition, can lead me astray. And when I open to it, it's really fascinating for me every time to watch what comes, because so often our ideas, our mental monkey mind of what should come and how it should work, is so far off of what the divine or the higher knower wants to send us, or the path that might be best for us. So to sit in that space of acceptance and surrender is a great word too. Surrender and acceptance, two of my favorite words. And just kind of to sit there in awe and a bit of disbelief as things come across your life, and okay, and just to accept it and to trust it. And it's a really fun place to be. It can really, if you can shift into the space, I'm not there all the time, but for sure when I'm there, it's a wonderful space, because whatever happens, you know that it's okay, and you know that it's meant to be, and you know that whatever challenge it is, it's there for a reason, and it's part of your path. So I encourage everyone to try this and to try to practice it, and just play with it. You have to be playful, because if you for me, if I get too serious about things or concerned, this is our life, and we're here to learn, we're there to love, and we're here to have fun, and without that, I think we're kind of missing the point. And on that note, we'll continue this conversation, but we do want to invite jumpers to come on in and enjoy the conversation. So if that link hasn't been shared yet, we're going to share that right now.
All right, I'm going to put that out there, Misty. Like we did last time, and my comment tracker is not working as well, so I noticed that there were a couple of people that put some comments out there, but
yeah, I can do a quick shout out. We have Jeannie Sabri. Thanks for coming again, Jeannie. She says exactly about solving problems, and I won't pull this up, but I'll read it. When I can't solve a problem, especially if it's artistic, I let my brain stew on it, and seemingly out of the blue, later the answer comes. I always thought it was because I am more of a left brain than a right brain. Interesting. So I'd be, that word stew. It can be yeah, it depends what kind of stew you're cooking, I think. I'm thinking there can be the stew of that nice, gentle simmer that, okay, I'll just let that sit and trust, and heart and gut mind involved. And then there would be the other stew of more the hamster in the wheel. So it depends on your perspective. But thanks, Jeannie, for sharing that. And I just want to do a quick shout out. Heidi's with us, Barbara, Angelina, and then I think this is a friend of yours, Rachel. I'm not sure. Kaveta Jacek? I don't know if I'm saying her name right.
She lives in Canada too.
Wonderful.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
As if
and we
Canada
have
next door to everybody, because it's so big.
Yeah.
yeah, neighbors with China.
Yeah. Who else is on, Mist? I know that.
Let's see. Well, we have
I'm sorry.
Roseanne. These are all. Roseanne might be here. Suzanne O'Brien. These are previous guests that we've had. Phil Aston. I was on a show with him the other day with Chef Dennis Litley. That was lots of fun. A great musician. Carrie Roldan, who's also a super fun Google Hangout guru girl. She helped me get on here. Jamal's here. Let's see. Kim Adams. We have some new people here. Dave Williams, Susanna Odin, Angelina Villar, Michael Lamptey, Marcus. Marcus, I'm still not sure how to say your last name, but you've been watching us and following our show for a long time. So thanks so much to all our viewers, old and new, and we hope you keep coming back and post in the comment stream. Let us hear your thoughts and what you're liking, and share our show around. It's fun. Death is fun.
Death is
Imagine that.
very fun if we allow it, especially.
And it can be fun.
especially if Rachel and Misty, the perspective is what you guys have described as your experience, and that is that the veil is very thin, and that there's sort of a straddling of two worlds, kind of being in this one but not of it, and yet being open to what the other side offers. It doesn't have to be as scary as many people say it is. I wanted to mention I have. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's just like a walk, you know. Here on Earth and our human ego beings, we often think it's, you know, we're losing something, so that's just us being a little bit selfish because we lost something we loved, and no one likes to do that, and yes, for sure it hurts, but if we can shift our perspective just a little bit, and it's not it is the ending, but endings are really just new beginnings. So that person was here, and it's almost just like they've stepped over a line, we can't see them anymore, and now they're off to play with in their new life on the other side, and that makes it not so bad, not so scary, not so much of a dark cloud, just a...
Sorry. Can I tell a really small story about that? Well, you know, I've been to many funerals and memorial services, and I just want to tell you that the theme that I've noticed is that the people who have passed on are there, jumping up around, dancing, like trying to get everybody's attention so that they know they're okay. It can be absolutely hilarious. And I was in a church once, sitting behind a row of nuns, and the guy was up on stage. It was a memorial, so it was a while after he'd passed on. There's no casket, but he was up on stage, like behind the priest, doing this and like jumping all up and forth. And I was trying so hard not to laugh. And I couldn't help it. And the nuns turned around and glared at me, but I mean, they're fine. They're great. They're not suffering anymore. They're happy. And so I just wanted to relate that because it's kind of funny.
I think that's right. And I also think that is so healing for people who have lost loved ones but can't seem to get unstuck. It's almost as if from people like you, Rachel, who do have that very open channel to communication, it's why people go to mediums. It's why people want to get those messages desperately to find out if they're okay. To me, it seems so sad that many of us who are left here will take one moment, perhaps not being there for the last breath, or there was a fight and words couldn't be exchanged. I think that is a beautiful opportunity, and what mediums bring to this space is that message that everything is okay and it's only love. It's only love. And I've seen almost spontaneous healings in rooms where I've been, where there's been readings for people who have been devastated, sometimes for over 20 years, carrying this burden around. And I think what your guy behind the altar was doing was trying to let us know, like, stop, this is crazy. We don't have to carry this anymore. You know?
You know, I think in large part what we're feeling when other people die is not really sadness for their passing, it's triggering our own fear of death. You know, so it's not just a one-way thing. It's if you don't have that fear inside of you, you're probably not going to be, you know, devastated for very long. It'll pass just like other losses pass, but
right.
A lot of people are just really afraid of their own mortality.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I know we mentioned this a bit pre-show, but you mentioned you might be able to share what it is that our passed-on relatives want for us to know the most. I think some people, you know, I'm super curious, and I could take a guess, but I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've done hundreds of medium readings, and the most common message, which you probably already know, of course, is that they love you and that they're fine. They're perfectly, wonderfully okay, and there is sometimes a transition period that they go through. So if they've had a really traumatic life or death, they can go off in solitude and take a year or a month or a week, whatever they need to really heal and to get themselves back whole again. And then they'll be able to talk to you after they've gone through that. So there are times when spirits aren't beautifully okay the moment they pass. but they're there with all the support that they need to get that. So that really only happens with like suicides or people who have been in war situations and they're really traumatized. There's like this transition period, but it's all self-regulated. And when somebody passes over, they don't need to suffer anymore. They don't need to have the same physical ailments or even relationships. Like I was in a position once where I was able to help an older woman heal from her mother's trauma to her. So she had a really abusive mom growing up, and I was able to help translate for the mom to explain that that was just something they both worked out before their lives. It wasn't really the spirit or the essence of the mom doing that. It was just kind of a contract. The mom's a different person now. She doesn't hold any grudges. She was able to apologize to the daughter. And that just brought about so much healing because it took the victimhood out of it. It empowered the daughter to know that she played a part in that and that it was for her benefit, and just she was able to look at her whole life differently. It was just amazing. So yeah, they're very whole on the other side.
I think that's really cool and huge what you just said, because so many people, when they have these major life trials, and many people do, if they haven't had them yet, there's a good chance before the end of their life they will, because that's just part of it. Without life without any trials is not really life, or I haven't come across anyone or heard of anyone to have lived a life without these trials. So knowing that that is something that was decided upon and you agreed to it before you came into this life, that's really interesting. And I think it could really, if people can make that jump, and I understand how this would be a big jump for some, and many aren't ready yet, but just to entertain that idea that maybe this happened for a reason, and I'm experiencing this huge drama and hurt and pain or whatever it is. I mean, you experience bruises and physical pains, but that this is a growth tool for you, and there's something within this experience that you've agreed to, and that's why you're co-creating it, and that through this and trusting you'll get through this, there's growth. So it's really calling you to connect with your higher self and to overcome it. So to find the love and to find the forgiveness or whatever it is to overcome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do dead people in the afterlife have halos?
I have seen some halos, but I don't think on people, more on how like angels and stuff like that. But I love yours. It's very beautiful.
My halo, or I'm also cool with this tiara. Work too. We are not doing any.
We had so much fun.
Go ahead.
We had so much fun pre-show. We were trying on all these hats and glasses, and we have the pictures here. I'm going to try and post them for everyone to see. We just had a blast. We were having some good belly laughs. But I see that we're coming up to the top of the hour, so I was wondering if we wanted to just do a run through, and each of us can just share if we have what we have up and coming, or if there's anything we'd like to alert our audience to work with us further. Do you want to start us off, Rachel?
Sure. Yeah. So again, if you want to learn that intuitive drawing technique, you can go to the link that's underneath my name, intuitiveartacademy.com/career, and that'll also sign you up for my discussion series that's happening over the next few weeks. And it's really geared toward like intuitive, creative people who aren't feeling completely fulfilled in their work. So if that sounds like you, sign up and we can chat and get to know each other even more.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And of course, on my side of things at doingdeathdifferently.com, I have an online video-based, very engaging video course for people who are drawn to end of life, who want to serve in that capacity, who may be interested in becoming a doula, who maybe want to become a community volunteer. It is a 30-hour course at doingdeathdifferently.com. If you click on the training tab, you will find more information about that, and it'll give you everything that you can do with this course, what the contents are, and the feedback we've gotten is just terrific, and a way to really either break into this particular death space for either just volunteer or for work from that perspective. So come visit and see if we've got something for you. And you too, don't you, Misty, have a course where people can partake? Are you there? I think we lost. Did we lose everybody?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Misty, I don't know. She may be frozen in time. Frozen up in, she got bumped on out. I see. She just sent me. She's back in. There's her lovely mug. There's two of her. I don't know how two of her got in. How does that work in the spirit world, Rachel? Is that like a split soul or something like that, or what?
It's a whole other conversation, but there is something called an oversoul, which
Yeah.
several lives come out of. So think of it like a spider, where the oversoul is the big body, and there's many lives off of one. So yeah, it can happen.
It can happen, and Misty shows us so. I saw her back in just for a second, and she's back out. It looks like we're at the top of the hour, though. So I know that we had planned to do some more reading of The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. I don't think we're going to have the time for that right now, but continue to read that book because it is fun, it is amazing, it is a way to, again, to do what Rachel was talking about today, and that is open ourselves to some possibilities that may seem improbable or impossible. And that's what happened to this woman, Annie Kagan, when her brother, Billy, who was affectionately known as Billy Fingers, when her brother was killed in a car accident at age 60 and began speaking to her from other worlds. And as he continued his journey in the afterlife, his spirit, soul, it changed as he was learning more things along the way. So call it a great fiction book or something that really happened. It's totally worth the read. So anyway, what I'm going to do is kind of wrap us up. And Rachel, we want to thank you so much for being here. You've been a pleasure to speak with, and it's so wonderful to know that there's folks out there like you that who are offering these kinds of ways for us to really open up and kind of get a good look and a good feel for our true self and begin to live in that particular space. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Wonderful. So go see Rachel at intuitiveartacademy.com. Is that the correct link right there? intuitiveartacademy.com. And once again, this is Death Chicks signing off. And we will see you next week, where we'll have another wonderful guest who's going to talk a little bit more about the afterlife. It seems like this has been a theme and something that people are very, very interested in. So thanks again. Take good care, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.